Jerome McKeever, bro, welcome to the MyTribe Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me.
Dude, it's such a pleasure. We met through LRC, Lauderdale Run Club.
LRC.
And I mean, I saw, I follow you on Instagram and your page of Jerome on the Run. Could you give a little background to who you are, where you're from, and how you got to Jerome on the Run, man?
Yeah, how did I become Jerome on the Run?
Yeah.
Well, I'm originally from New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school up in Boston, and then that's where I guess Jerome on the Run, you could say, started. Because I lived in Boston, went to school there, and I saw the Boston Marathon happen. And I had never run a race before, but the day that I saw it, this was probably my freshman, sophomore year, I went on my laptop and I was like, okay, I want to run that. What do I have to do to run that? And so it was like, oh, you have to be a Boston qualifier. You have to run under a certain time. And I was like, okay, what's that time? I was like, okay, I'll start training. I'll do it this summer. So in one summer, I attempted, never having run a race, to qualify for the Boston Marathon.
Wow.
How it went, I ran a 5K in June, a half marathon in July, was injured in August because I completely overtrained trying to do this goal. And I went to the race anyway. And I also, not that I would have done it had I done this properly, but I didn't eat before because both of the races before had food. So I just assumed there was going to be food at the race. So this race, I showed up in the middle of nowhere on an empty stomach, barely ate the day before, no carb loading. And I ran that race 20 miles at the pace that I needed to. And then I hit the wall, which you probably heard of. And that was real. No amount of mental toughness will get you out of the wall. Your body has nothing left in it to move.
This is the Boston Marathon.
It was Erie, Pennsylvania.
Okay, so
I chose something that was the last race before the qualifying cutoff. So
okay.
I gave myself enough time. I gave myself 3 months to qualify for Boston.
What month is Boston in?
It's in April, and
it's in April.
You need to qualify by September, the September before.
So you started this in June?
Exactly, yeah.
Wow, July, August injury. September is when so that was a marathon in Erie, Pennsylvania?
Exactly, yeah.
And then you hit the 20-mile wall, the wall at the 20-mile marker.
Yeah, somehow I got there. I was on pace, hitting sub 7-minute miles for all that time. And even today, I'm that's tough. So
yeah.
I think there was something in me back then. I think I used to bike a lot. So I'm maybe even though I couldn't run, the biking had helped me leading up to it, something like that. I had fitness.
Yeah.
So I got there, but could not get the job done.
And were you a runner before this? Did you run casually? I mean, what was your relationship to running before this experience?
So I was a wrestler, and basically my running experience was running to cut weight. I used to run a lot of time to cut weight. I was somebody who was dropping multiple, whatever the lowest I could be at, especially my first 2 years, varsity in high school. I was cutting down super unhealthy.
Wow.
I would cut class to go run. I wouldn't eat for 3 days, show up to a tournament 3.5 pounds over, and have to just run and run and run.
Wow. What was the weight you were fighting at?
Freshman year I was 112, I think.
112.
And naturally I should have been 125, 130, but I was just skin and bones at 112.
Wow. I don't think I want to fight a 112 version of you, bro. Guy's cutting all this weight.
Yeah, just starving.
Wow.
But yeah, so it was I got a good base for running, but I associated it with torture basically for cutting weight.
It literally is torture, cutting weight, dude. That's the reason why I didn't wrestle.
Yeah.
I love fighting. I do jiu-jitsu now, but the whole cutting weight aspect, I saw my friends going to lunch and not eating. I don't even I don't have that. I don't have the not eating. That's insane to me.
Yeah.
But I give you all the credit, man. Yeah. So how did it go from what flipped from the torture to the lifestyle now, I guess?
Yeah. I just one day, and so when I got to college, I decided I was going to get as big as I could. So I just started lifting and eating as much as I possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I just got through that phase, and I was like, let me start running. I mean, I guess I just kind of switched from thing to thing. That's kind of like how I am.
Okay.
But it was when I got to running and this time eating that I realized how much I liked it. And it probably started it wasn't that long that I started running that I decided to qualify for the Boston Marathon. It was like a casual, it was like, yeah, I was like this like relatively like big dude, and then I started running a little bit, and I'm like, I'm gonna qualify for the Boston Marathon.
The ego from the lifting got carried over to the running.
Yeah, and from the wrestling, I was like, I got this.
I love it. Well, I mean, you almost did.
I almost did.
So it was the third qualifying one where you hit the wall, and then so take it from there.
Yeah. And then I actually did train or try to train the following year. It was my last year of college, and just it was a mess. Like if you could imagine, I was in my last year of college. I lived in a frat house. I was just in full party mode essentially, and so it wasn't really possible to fully party mode and train for this type of marathon. So I ended up this time I just dropped out like a month or a two before. I was like, I know this is not worth, like, I'm not going to make this. I did not put the work in. And then it was a hiatus of like 3 or 4 years where I didn't run like races. I think it was like 2018 to like 2022, so like 4 years. And then my next race was in Miami, actually. I didn't live here, but I came down and visited, and I was like, I did a half marathon.
Out of a whim, you just signed up for a half marathon after
pretty
hiatus?
Much. Pretty much. I was
Okay.
I was running, but like just a little bit. And yeah, I came down and did a half marathon. Decided I'm getting back into this. This is still pre-Jerome on the Run. This was just Jerome running.
You're barely running. Yeah, you just started again.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was living. I think I had moved back to New York with family, and then I decided I was going to move down to Miami around like 2020, end of 2022.
Okay.
And that was when I came down here, discovered run clubs, and decided that I wanted to start making running content. And I started making running content before Jerome on the Run. I guess I just like making videos. And I was like, why don't I just make a dedicated page for this? Because I saw this was when running influencers were starting to become a thing. And I saw that. I was like, okay, that's interesting. But I saw it as, like, I didn't necessarily want to be a running influencer, but I want to start to build some type of brand around running, which I guess is like similar, but not necessarily the same. Like, I wanted to put my own spin on it. And I guess that's still what I'm doing today. Is like, I think I'm taking the approach changes from season to season. Still figuring out this season, but yeah, it's like a work in progress. Jerome the Run.
Okay.
It's something I like to keep flexible. It's not one set thing.
I want to go back to that, but I'm very interested. What was it about watching the Boston Marathon for the first time that got you inspired to run, inspired to do it?
I like to do hard things. And back then I was like, wow, a marathon is super hard. And I think, and just being in Boston, and it was a little related to the partying that it was like, okay, well, if I do it, then I'll have a whole bunch of people cheering me on, and it'll be like a party, you know, and everybody will cheer me on for Boston. But yeah, like I think just in general, I wanted to do a marathon, and I guess I chose the hardest thing. Is like, that's in running and marathon running, Boston qualifier is like, it's not the pinnacle in the sense of it's the hardest, but it's considered like what people are going after. Like, they call races Boston qualifying races if you
even if it's not in Boston.
Yeah, even if it's not in Boston.
It's like the benchmark.
Yeah, if it's like an official race, if it's an official marathon, it's a Boston qualifying marathon.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's one that you can run, and if you do the right time, then it'll qualify you for Boston. So yeah, I was like, I'm going to Boston qualify. And it's funny because now I've done 3. I'm training for my 4th marathon, and it's like the distance actually seems kind of short to me.
Really?
Yeah, after doing it, I mean, not that it's easy. Like no marathon is easy, but
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's like just a marathon. Like now, I'm like, not now, but I think down the road, I would be interested in doing like ultras and stuff like that. But for now, like I want to use the speed I have. Like I think that would be something when I'm a little bit older when I start to do like ultras and stuff.
Mm. Yeah, man, you booked it. You were the fastest guys that I've seen. We had that race at North Beach Village with Lauderdale Run Club,
Yeah.
and I'm like, whoa, because I see you every other Tuesday or Sunday here and there, and I'm like, all right, like, yo, this guy's a homie. He's cool. What the man? He just go. He just booking it. You lapped the whole team. I'm like, your team didn't have to worry about a thing. They were like, yo, they were good in their own right, but I'm like, nah, yo, we ain't got it. This guy's way. He's in the, what did they call that? Like a ringer. You're a ringer.
Yeah, you could say.
But just speaking to the speed, man. Have you always been that fast? Like even when you're running for wrestling, or is this something that's been developed recently?
So that day I did not know I had that in me.
Really?
That was a new thing. Yeah, because what I did last year is I focused on speed, and that was like the test. That was because I started in the summer and I was trying to get my mile time down. I was like, I've never tested how fast I could run a mile. So I tried one. I think I was like a 5:21, 5:22.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, let's get that below a 5. And so I trained all summer with a group down in Miami run by Olympians. And they like it's Olympians, like elite runners. People are like former national champions. Like some people that are like on a whole different level than myself. Like I go there and I'm humbled.
Yeah.
And so going and being humbled by these people and training to try and keep up with them pushed me to get faster and faster. And so by the time that North Beach Classic happened, I had already just that resistance. It was almost like resistance training. Like I was like taking off the bands and flying on that day. Yeah, because that was a 1K race, and I'd never ran 1K in a race. So like, I was used to doing longer, like half marathon. So even 5Ks, I only done like 2, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So to do a 1K race, I've never done that. And I wasn't a fast sprinter like when I was like wrestling and stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was more of endurance. I was actually probably an endurance person back then. Like we would do conditioning, and like if we're doing sprints, like suicides, I would be middle of the pack. But if we're doing something where we're running laps around a track, like I'm literally half a lap in front of the next fastest person. So I guess in a way I always had endurance in me. Like I was naturally good at the endurance, but the speed I had to build, and that's what I did last year.
Yeah, I mean, training, I know we talked a little bit about this, training with guys or whoever, Olympians or whatever it is, training with people that are above you. And what was your relationship to it like that? Wasn't that, intimidating? What was that experience like for you?
Like I said, it was humbling. Like running up in like a lot of the run clubs, even so I'm based out of Miami, so like South Beach Track Club was my main club for a long time, and it got to the point where I was among the fastest there. There was maybe a couple guys that could either keep up with me, maybe one that could pass me. And so the reason I went and looked for another group and found these Olympians is that I wanted people that are faster than me. I would need somebody to push me, and so meeting them, I was like, this is like, wow, this is what real running is. It was almost like I absorbed running knowledge also just by being around them. Like they're talking, I had to get a running watch, like running around the track there. I'm like, they're talking about their numbers and all that stuff. And I'm like, what numbers? I was just used to just run around a track. So I got like a lot more knowledgeable about running just by being around them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just by being in the room,
exactly.
so to speak.
Yeah.
You picked up the information, you picked up the knowledge that they're just, maybe they were trying to pass it along, maybe they weren't, but it's just being in there. That's amazing, man. A lot of credit to you, because not a lot of people have that uncomfortability to go in and to be humbled. They'll stay the big fish in the small pond, and I'm the top dog here, and that's it. I mean, that's but why faster? Like what in, just because like you said, I conquered this mountain of South Beach Run Club or what it's track club. Like why there?
Yeah. So last year I started the year traveling like South America for a couple months. So I wasn't really running like that during that time. It was kind of like a reset because I trained, did a marathon, then I took months off running. When I came back, I decided, okay, Jerome on the Run. I'm gonna before I didn't even, like now I'm on season 4 of Jerome on the Run. Before this, I didn't call this seasons. It was in this last summer that I decided, oh, I'm gonna call this season 2, and I kind of thought of it as like the next phase of it. And so I wanted to take a long-term approach and thinking long-term, not just content-wise, but fitness-wise. How do I build a base to get to like achieve my goals in running? And so I was like, let's start from the beginning, the mile time. How fast can I run 1 mile? And then that became 5K. By the end of the year, I did a 10K and was breaking my PRs. If you followed along, like it was like PR, and then next month another PR. And
wow.
So yeah, I was working my way up, and now we're in the next phase, season 4, where training wise, I'm training for now longer distance. So I'm doing a half marathon next month, a 15K the following month, which I'm not going to try to convert that.
Is that more than a half marathon?
That's less.
It's
yeah,
less.
It's
okay.
less, but it's like still longer distance. It's
Gotcha.
And then a marathon in April.
That's Boston?
No, so this is going to be Jersey City, the Jersey
cool.
City Marathon. The goal is to have this be the one that I qualify for Boston.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So if you make a certain time in Jersey City, pretty much if you finish, because you'll make a time.
I mean, as long as I train.
Yeah, you stay healthy, everything stays fine.
Yeah.
Now you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then that would mean Boston would be next April.
Exactly. Yep.
Of 26.
Yeah.
Because it'd be April 25.
Yeah, it's gonna be 26. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, man. I love how the macro outlook on it, dial it down to all right, these are the micro goals I need to hit to be able to go back to this original goal that started all of this.
Exactly. 7 years ago.
How long?
7 years ago.
7 years ago. How old are you?
28.
28.
Actually, no, it's 8 years ago. I was 20 when I ran my first marathon. Wow. So it's been approaching 10 years that I've been like had this goal in mind, and not that it's like I've been working constantly the whole 10 years or 8 years, but it's something that has been in the back of my mind. It's something that I'm going to do. So
yeah, see that switch right there? I want to do I'm going to do.
Yeah. Wow. You gotta believe if you're gonna do it. So
why do you say that?
I mean, that's the first step in doing anything, really. If you don't believe that you're good, you can do it, you're not gonna, I don't know, make the choices to do what it takes. I guess So I'm when it comes to like believing. So a lot of people use the word like manifest in this way, that you kind of speak the things that you want to do into existence. The way that I kind of look at that is that you're speaking it into existence, and I'm a believer of telling as many people your goals as possible, because what you're doing is you're telling people, and it ends up reverberating back at you, like in a literal sense, that you tell these people, and then conversation comes up, hey, how is that going, that goal? It's a reminder. And so if you tell everybody around you, it creates this echo chamber of this goal. Like it feels like it gets that momentum going. Like
wow.
Like with Jerome on the Run, I'm always I call myself Jerome on the Run. I'm working on now coaching a group, and I'm calling myself Coach Jerome on the Run. And it's, in a way, you could say I'm manifesting it in that, because this is the beginning of being Coach Jerome on the Run. But this is a next chapter that I really want to do, and I think I want everybody on board with that, and just by putting it out there, it starts to come back, and back and forth, echoing until it is. Like Jerome on the Run just is at this point, at least. Yeah, it just is.
Yeah. Fuck that doubt.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it is.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. When I started it, it was like, what is Jerome on the Run? And now it's like, oh, it's Jerome on the Run. It's not just Jerome, it's Jerome on the Run.
Ooh, the tone change that's different.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
What do you think gives that tone change for yourself? Like, what makes it from something that I want to do to something I'm talking about, and how do you get the courage to tell people about this?
Yeah, there's definitely times where I want to keep things close, and especially when I'm a more uncertain about something. Like I don't know which direction it's going, but it's just trusting that if you put things out there, if you put in the work, if you believe like that these things will come, and yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought. But you're saying about
the difference of the tone of declaring something coming from like, this is Jerome on the Run to Jerome on the Run or Jerome on the Run.
Yeah.
Like declaring it and expressing it in that way, I think is something that's there's a difference there.
Yeah, and you said like, I guess like being hesitant about like putting it out there, like how you get past that.
Yeah.
I guess it's just I just see examples of I put something out there and it comes back, and it's built its momentum. Like it's not an exact like everything works out, but I take those wins, I take those things that I did put out there and did come back, and I take that and I bring it with me. Like this is working. This is going where in the direction that I want it to go. Obviously, like sometimes you make a wrong turn, sometimes like you hit dead ends, but that happens. But remember all of the times that you made the right turn and things did work out, and yeah, just trust.
Belief and trust. When it comes to, I guess, down that road of trust, where's your mind at with that? When things are not going well, when you're not getting the, whether it be the support or the anything of it, where do you lean on in terms of trust?
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're saying that, I'm thinking of like your trust in the process. Like how do I trust in the process? Because you can say that trust in the process, but like how do you actually like believe it? You have to believe, like actually trust in the process. It's hard. It's hard, but I guess like I think about. So I'm thinking about like this journey that I'm on with Jerome on the Run, and I think about how much it takes of my time, and I think about like is this worth my time? Like this, like I have to trust in the process of Jerome on the Run, and I think about like what the alternative is, that I just do something that I don't care about and use the one life that I have to like spend time doing chasing stuff that I don't care about, because I've in my life, I've definitely spent a lot of time on stuff I don't care about. Jerome on the Run is something that I really do care about, and I don't know where it's going, but I trust the process, that because I care about it, because I, am putting in the work and, trusting the process, and, putting things out there, being vulnerable to to put it out there, Jerome on the Run, like this is what I'm doing, this is who I am. That it'll pay back.
What does the payback look like? What's your, highest goals or aspirations for Jerome on the Run?
That's a question. Yeah. I mean, because it's evolving. Like I think it's like I see it as like a base, um,
Hmm.
because for me, running is I've had a lot of different interests in my life. I've done a lot of gone down a lot of different paths, but I feel like running is something I've discovered is pretty constant. Like
Hmm.
for me, it's something that I could see myself doing my whole life. Like I love it. It serves me. Like it helps me physically, mentally. It adds to my life.
Hmm.
Um, and now through run clubs and through this whole society of running, I'm now meeting people like meeting you. Like that's through because of running.
That's
um,
true.
so I see that as like the base, like Jerome on the Run. Like when I started Jerome on the Run, I didn't necessarily mean it literally as I'm running. I meant also like just like I travel a lot South America, and I thought I didn't end up making the content. It was whatever.
Yeah, it just
but
wasn't right
but I
over
thought
there.
of it as like Jerome on the Run could also be just me on the run traveling around and stuff. So yeah, it could work different ways. Um,
Mm.
and I was actually just talking to somebody about this, but I think not that I just think, but I'll think. I think running is one of the most natural things that we can do as humans. Like I think maybe you've probably heard that one of our like only physical adaptations that we have over other animals is that we're able to run long distances. We're built to run long distances versus other animals. Like if you look at these like tribes in Africa that they can literally hunt down like an antelope. They'll just run and run and run. And while the antelope is much faster, if we're built where we can go so many miles that the animal eventually just passes of exhaustion
Mm.
and then spirit.
Yeah, wow. I
um,
didn't know that.
no,
I mean, it makes sense when I can look back and
yeah.
evolutionary, but I didn't know that humans were the only ones that can take that long distance. And do you think it's like the ability to endure and like to maybe focus on a goal that we can endure more? Because there
Um,
are other animals like evolutionary that are stronger that have, I don't know, more equipped to run faster, but maybe not longer.
yeah. So like physically, one thing for example is that we don't have fur. Like for example, that antelope is covered in fur, and so if you're talking about Africa where it's really hot, like it's
Mm.
taking so much more energy to cool down. But meanwhile, we're and we sweat, and so like we're able to cool ourselves down more. And then even just the I'm not too familiar with like physiology or biomechanics or whatever, but our bodies, like the tendons are the way our ankles are built, the way that our glutes are set up. Like our glutes are much larger versus like chimps, like that have smaller glutes and they can't run as much. Like we actually have like
Mm.
a large glute to body ratio. So
Okay.
it's like these actual like physical things about us that mean that we can run super long distance. If you look at like these ultra marathoners, like they're running literally hundreds of miles in one shot. Like it's nuts. Like no, like other animals can't do that. Even these like wolves and other animals, you think that they can do that, but they
You would
eventually
just
have to stop.
assume that a
Yeah, you just
wolf would
assume.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah, yeah,
eventually
you're
have to
right.
stop. Like we don't have to stop. Like we're just more
Mm.
efficient than. I mean, we were more efficient. I think the average human is not.
They're
We're
not
not
there
there anymore.
anymore, but
Um, but
wow,
yeah, yeah.
that's awesome.
So yeah, we got on a tangent, but I think that to me, I think of running as one of the most natural things we could do, and I, that's also part of why it's my base.
Okay. That's the base, and that is the base. And to hopefully launch, to hopefully jump off of and land.
Um, I mean, like we're finding out. So, like I'll mention a little bit that right now I'm in the process of starting a training group where I'm now coaching, runners to become better runners, and I'm
Hmm.
doing this based off of what I've learned from training with these Olympians down in Miami. Um, and it's been just 2 weeks now, but uh, I'm loving it. I'm loving coaching runners. I didn't realize how much I knew until I started to talk to, because down there I'm just following people and going off their expertise. And so when I go to a group where that isn't used to that isn't as like knowledgeable, I'm like, wow, like I actually know a lot about running relative to the average person. So this is like a new phase where I'm discovering what I know and something I love, and I want to pursue it where it goes. So that's what I'm saying. Like that was something that I wasn't necessarily prioritizing, and then the opportunity kind of just fell in my lap, and now we're pursuing it.
How does it feel in terms of the shift from absorbing information to now being, like you were humbled and you were taking all this information in, and like, wow, I need to watch, I need this, that, the other thing, and now you're the one in the seat distributing that information to everybody. Yeah. What has that experience been like for you?
So it's fun, but it's also, there's definitely some level of insecurity. Like I want to make sure that I'm doing things, that the perfectionist, wants to do everything perfectly. I've just got to accept that I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm making sure that I don't make mistakes that hurt anybody, but just kind of, it's a little like nerve-wracking but fun. I think when I feel, I love these times in my life where I feel nervous, because that's when I feel like I'm on the right path. So that nervousness that I'm feeling, I'm like, good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I know there's so many people, and I was one of them, that are watching this right now and nervous to take that next step, nervous to believe and start that page. Something on the run, their version of that, or their version of, all right, maybe I need to level up and start coaching now. I mean, I've done this for so long. What's your advice, whether it be to somebody in that position that's afraid to take that leap of faith?
I feel like it's like really simple. Like it's gonna sound really simple, but it's like just start and make as many mistakes as you can as fast as you can. I think that like the only way that you learn is by making mistakes, and I can say that, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I follow that advice, but that's what I believe is the best way of doing things. I feel like when I'm forced into situations where I'm quickly making mistakes is when I've grown the most. So now it's like I'm trying to shift my mindset to push myself when I don't have that something pushing me, to push myself to make those mistakes, if you know what I mean. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're putting yourself in more uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
What's an example of a situation where you dove in and purposely, or not purposely, made mistakes, but put yourself in a position where you've made mistakes and something of that nature? What's a example of that?
Yeah. So this is like a different area of my life. But for example, like when I got out of school, the first job I got out of school was a job in sales. And at the time, to me, sales was the most terrifying thing and like ever. Like I felt like talking to people on the phone, talking to people in general. Like I was, not that I was necessarily like shy, but I wasn't confident in my ability to speak to people. Like, but I knew that if I forced myself to do this, that it was something's gonna happen. If I force myself to work at this, eventually you have to get better. And so that's what I did. I worked in sales, and I realized with sales, like if you've ever worked in sales, it's like it's always gonna be hard. Like there's never an easy day, or maybe some days, but like it's not. There's always I think most people, it's not natural, like to sell to people. And so that was an environment where I learned a lot. I got over that fear. It's still not easy. Like if I were to go back into a job in sales, like I know it's not going to be easy, but I know I can do it.
Gotcha. And what were you selling?
So the first thing I sold was selling restaurant POS systems. Okay. Like it was a company called Toast. If I don't know if you've ever seen them,
Yeah.
they're a pretty popular one. And so I was doing like remote sales. Kind of, we would have like field people, and so I would call up restaurants, set up demos for our people to come in, show them the system. And I was selling everywhere from Hawaii and Alaska to Miami, New York, everywhere.
All 50 states.
All 50 states, yeah.
So what would you say your biggest takeaway was from that situation?
From my situation working with Toast and doing sales, and so like I said, it was something that I learned I could get over. I could, yeah, I tested myself. Like, I mean, it was not the first time I had tested myself, but it was just another example of doing something extremely like scary to me and being able to get past it. But also, I think it taught me just like self-reliance, because in sales, it's like you're on your own, really. Like, yeah, you're on a team and you can learn from other people, but when you're on that call, it's one-on-one. Like your manager can't hop in like mid-call and like maybe in certain cases, like, but like 99.9% of the situations, like it's you, like you've got to it's you one-on-one. I think about it like when I used to wrestle, and when you wrestle, it's one-on-one. It's
Just you out there.
Yeah, there's no one else to blame. And I love that. Like I love that, like owning it. It's I don't know, I think that's maybe just part of my personality, that I like to own things. And so working in sales taught me to kind of own things. And even now, I feel like I'd rather be in a situation where I own what I do, even if it's not on the same scale as if I was like a part of some bigger organization that I might not care about, if that makes sense. If I said that right.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I mean, it's, a lot of people are like, oh, I'd rather not be a 9 to 5 and rather be responsible for my own well-being than have a company be responsible for it short term, but not give a crap about me long term.
Yeah.
A lot of people realize that after COVID, of like, oh yeah, I have this job, it's all secure, and layoffs just wipe everybody out. If you're the top whatever 10%, you're just gone. Like, that's just it.
That was the reality at Toast. Sold to restaurants.
Really?
Like 90-something% of the sales staff gone. Like that. Like,
was that during COVID?
Yeah, I was there, and then COVID happened, and they were in super growth mode. They were like, we're gonna double in size next year. COVID happened, 50% of the company was gone. 90% of the sales staff gone. I was like on the verge of like being promoted. I had like people lined up for referrals. Like I was like had some money rolling in, and then it was sad.
And everything just got shut down, huh?
Yeah, but for me, COVID was actually, it's like weird to say, but it's like that was one of the most peaceful and most, I think, transformative times of my life. And I think it was transformative for a lot of people, but for me, it was like a peaceful transformation in a way.
Why do you say that?
So for me, I was living with a couple friends in Boston, a couple close friends, and so it was just a good, like the situation of living was good. And when I was laid off from Toast, I then got with the unemployment benefits. I think it was enough that it was like matching or even making more than I was making before. Like it was one of those situations. I think a lot of people were like got that experience from what I remember.
Yeah, most people.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, with this time, this is like probably a rare moment in my life that I'm gonna be able to make like solid money and have the free time to focus on something. And so what I decided to focus on was myself. I decided to sit down and really think of myself as like a project, and like break down every aspect of myself and try to improve everything. Or not necessarily like I need to perfect myself, but like think about what were the areas that I want to work on and how would I work on that long term.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, not many people would ever do that, number one. Number two, never mind during a global pandemic and no promise of tomorrow. I mean, I give you a lot of credit for that, man. That's amazing. Have you always been interested in self-development, or looking at yourself like a project, or?
No, it was just that opportunity that I think my mind had always been my mind my life had always been going really fast. I think I was always hopping from one thing to the next and like go 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 go, whether it was just like school or work at the same time and stuff. So I was always really busy. So the first time I wasn't busy and I focused on, I think I stopped, I paused, I thought of all the like broke it down in all like different categories. I think just like meditating on it was probably one of the biggest things, because meditation kind of like gave me like a blank slate. Like I learned to just sit with myself. And I started to pick up, I started to just get into like a simple routine of I would get up, go for a walk or like a jog. I wasn't really running. It's like a light jog. I would read and I would just practice. I was just being really disciplined, but like not really doing too much. And I think back, I'm like, wow, like I could have like, I don't know, tried to build something back then. But like, no, but I was building myself.
So, but you did.
Yeah. I feel like I was building like a base that has helped me like to this day. Like I feel like I always feel like I have something to fall back on in myself, if that makes sense. Like yeah, like when like trusting the process, I trusted because if I think back to the work I did, I think back to who I am at my core, because I feel like that was what I did back then. It was like I tried to figure out who I am at my core, and I feel like I've always been able to fall back on that since then.
I don't think most people have a clue about who they are at their core.
Yeah, probably not. And I'm not saying that like I definitively know who I am at my core, but I feel like I'm pretty confident in my core. Pretty confident in what my core values are and what I want with this life. And so when I'm making decisions about what direction I want to go in, I stop, I meditate, and I think back, how does this relate to my core? And yeah.
That's your current practice.
Oh, what do you mean?
Is that your current practice? Like when, as you said, you're you know, as you're making decisions and before you make those decisions, is meditation and reflecting on your core and your core values, is that a part of your current process? Is this a lot of what you went through previously?
It's a big part of what I do now. It's a big part of when I'm doing Jerome on the Run and I don't know which direction I want to go. Is I've got to just sit and let my mind get quiet, and then the answers just start to come to me. Yeah, and not necessarily that it just comes from within me, but even just listening more. Like a lot of Jerome on the Run was ideas that came from other people, and I never know when the next idea is going to come from. So I'm just, if I'm quiet and I listen to everybody and the things around me, it comes to me.
Wow. What is that like when you're meditating and the ideas come to you? Because I know what you're talking about. I mean, I've been blessed to have been introduced to the practice of meditation and have that. It's almost like there's a, well, I'll give mine after you give yours. What is your experience like that when you get quiet? You know, it's like everyone thinks about productivity. I gotta do this, and this, and then that's how I'm gonna get to the next level. That's how I'm gonna get more creative, by being more creative and doing more. You're talking about getting more done by doing less, by being quiet, by being still. Dive into that, because I never understood that until I had to actually grab my neck and put myself down into that process.
Yeah. I guess one way I could describe it is just like natural. I feel like it's just by you stop forcing it and you let it come to you, and things just start to flow. Like I feel like right now, like Jerome on the Run is a big focus for me, and I feel like each step along this just keeps coming and coming. Like this new coaching phase, I don't know if I can call it a phase, but this new coaching step that I'm on, it fell into my lap, and I feel like a lot of the things around that are just like the knowledge that I've gained from running with athletes that were better than me, or better than me. It was by opportunity that they arrived at the same time that I came back from South America, and even when I came across like Lauderdale Run Club, that was just by coincidence that I came back around that time. I think I'm a little bit off topic.
No, I mean, you're talking. I guess you're on the subject of coincidences and how divine timing, let's call it, is I think where you're at. But in terms of like the when you get quiet and you said the answers come to you.
Yeah. That was what we were talking about. I don't want to hear about like your.
For myself, okay, yeah. I would say that like, let's just say I have a question about, well, a prime example for me was I didn't know when to leave my job in New York City. I knew I needed to quit my job. I didn't know when, and it was a $20,000 decision because during Christmas, in the position that I was in, if you stay till after Christmas, everybody gives you envelopes and you get a bonus from the job, and it was probably going to be an additional $20,000 that I knew I was walking away from the industry, and I had no clue, what I was like, is it the right thing to stay and collect this money? Is it going to be the seed money to launch whatever else I'm going to do? Like, it logically makes sense to stay, but it doesn't innately make sense to stay personally. So I was like, I don't know what to do. So I went up hiking in Van Cortlandt Park. I sat down and I was like, you know what? Let me just, God, the universe, listen, give me an answer. Do I leave before or after Christmas? Closed my eyes. I got real quiet. Nothing. And I was like, okay. Let me ask this in a different way. Do you have a date? Give me a specific date before or after Christmas. Or just give me a date when I should be leaving my job. And it was half like it was whispered in my ear and half like it just was given to me. And all I remember, it's not even hearing, it's knowing. November 18th. That was crystal clear. Nobody could tell me otherwise. And I was like, say less. And I could sit here and legitimize it or say this, that, or whatever it was, but I knew at that moment that I was supposed to leave my job on November 18th, leave that money behind, figure out how I was going to do it, do whatever I needed to do. And logically, it made no sense. My family, my boss was like, listen, like, if you don't leave, like, you're good. Like, we don't need you. Like we get you want to quit, but just stay after Christmas. Like, just help us get through there. I'm like, listen, I can't. Like, I got a call from upstairs. Like, I just can't. Like, it was literally something I felt so horrible, like leaving them. And but what am I going to do? Disregard that? Like, oh yeah, you know what? It makes more sense logically for me to stay. Dude, fuck that. I had no other choice. I was like, nah, I have to honor this. So that's a example of the knowing and the bestowing of that when things got quiet. And I get what you're saying.
And yeah, I feel like for me, I think I go to that place a lot when I'm trying to create what I'm trying to create now. And it's sometimes like this idea just comes to me, and then so, like, for example, these video ideas, like, I try to be like more creative in the production of them. So like the first episode of this season, I don't know, I just heard like the Office music. It was like I heard the Office music playing, and I was like, what? Like, I don't know why it was playing. Like, I'm not watching The Office. I'm not. And I don't know, it started to come to me, and then it's like when I start to look at clips, I'm like, wait, that would go there, and that would go there, and then it just starts to build momentum, and like it always, not always, but it's a lot of the time it's like that. And I used to get really bad like writer's block, what do you call it, editor block or
Yeah,
something
creative
like
block.
Creative block, yeah.
Yeah.
But now that I've gotten better at like listening and using that, now my videos are a lot, that creative block gets opened up a lot easier now. I feel like not that it's like a secret, like a key, but it helps a ton to just listen to. It's there, like the video is there, the idea, what you're doing, it's somewhere in there, or it's in there or it's out there, but it's gonna, like, you have to just open yourself up to it and let it come to you. Yeah, it almost feels like a hack. Like it honestly feels like a little bit of a hack. Like I'm like, wow, like I don't know what to do. Just sit, just sit, and it just comes. Like I don't know, I don't know how it comes.
Have you always meditated? When did that practice start for you? I mean, because I don't disagree at all. Like to sit there and to do less, but the high school version of me is like, bro, I don't understand how that makes sense. I don't get it. Like, how can it come to you? You're not doing anything. Your mind's not doing anything. I mean, for the version of me that doesn't understand meditation, doesn't get that, like, how did you get into it? What opened your eyes to it?
So I, even to this day, I still use, it's how I got introduced to it was Headspace. It's like a pretty mainstream meditation app. And it was part of that phase when the pandemic started, where I was like working on different aspects, and I found that meditation was something that could help, or could help for mental, for the mental period. Like that's all I knew back then, is like this could help with my mental, like the box of mental. Meditate.
What do I do for that?
Yeah, I don't know where this is gonna go, but I was like, meditate, read, like those things. I was like, if I do these things, it'll help. I didn't know why it's gonna help, but like I guess online says it'll help. That's literally like where I was at. Like I was at the base. And so I think Headspace was the first thing I found, because it was the most mainstream, and I still use it to this day because it works. It works when I need something guided, but at this point, like I've done it so many times that if I don't need the guide, I don't necessarily need the guidance anymore. But when I started, sorry, you're saying like when I started,
just the like, and yeah, like starting you started in with Headspace, and just kind of the like how your relationship has evolved from that, of like checking the mental box to where it is now, where you're actually just, now it went from I'm doing it just because to it's a hack. Like that to me is a pretty big flip.
Yeah. So I guess, like, so if I was going to talk to myself as somebody, like, to explain like why it does what it does, it's what you're trying to do when you meditate is you're trying to, in a way, separate yourself from your thoughts. You're raising your awareness and being able to observe the things that are going on in your brain. So yeah, it's like by teaching yourself that, it's like you're uncovering it. You're like, you're seeing the things that you wouldn't see normally, because normally you're only seeing like one side of it. Like you're in a way, like it's funny because it's just coming to me right now, this description.
Let it channel, man. Let's
go. It's like when it's almost like you're thinking two-dimensionally, but when you start to meditate, you start to think three-dimensionally, and you can kind of like flip things and slow things down, and let me go back to that, and like I can like meditate on an idea. Like I have something in mind, I sit and I meditate, and it's like my mind goes into autopilot working on that idea. I don't know, like, and that's like the hack I'm describing, is like I don't know what the solution is, but I'm gonna sit, I'm gonna meditate, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, like sometimes in dreams, like, you know, like not all the time, not often, but sometimes, like it comes through in dreams too, or you just wake up in the morning. And I find like many of my best ideas are just when I wake up in the morning. So I journal every time I wake up in the morning, like my dreams and like thoughts, because I feel like it things come through in my dreams. So, and I think in dreams in general, if you listen.
Mm. And well, no, that's amazing. That's amazing. The journaling in the morning, you do it on your phone?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it an app? Is it just notes?
Yeah,
What
it's
is
just
it?
like a journal app on iPhone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. You ever like journal or track your dreams or anything?
Yes. I probably about a year or two ago, I had a morning journal and a journal that I like write everything in terms of
Like
like
physically?
yeah, physical
Yeah.
journal and like dreams and like aspirations or goals for the day, things of that nature, and then one before night, kind of like wrapping things up.
Yeah.
Um, and the I actually had a guest on previously. He was talking about how he journaled into an app or his notes, and then he was taking that journal like every month and put it into an AI.
Mm.
And the AI was learning to be him, to understand his
Whoa.
experiences, so that if in the time, in the unlikely time of his early death or something of that nature, his kids, if they had a question like, AI dad, what would you do here? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? That
Yeah.
is insane.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something you got your journals
Yeah.
eventually, if it's
That's
something to be interesting, to do.
yeah. That is really interesting, actually.
I mean, think about it, if you pass away, it's like, oh well,
Yeah.
that was great. Like we now, like for me, I got like 6 books of hard, you got who's gonna read that shit?
Mm.
Ain't nobody reading that shit.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna read 3 or 4 pages, okay, cool, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And but wow, man, that was eye opening. That was really cool shit, actually.
Yeah. So I do like beyond just like the journaling on my phone when I wake up. Sorry. Um, I started doing something back in March of last year, and I started with the intention of kind of doing like a monthly like newsletter almost, like, and it was like an update of my life, like as my life was going, and I was just gonna share it with close like friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of got to the point where like it was and maybe this is like me being like not wanting to be too vulnerable, but it's like some aspects of it I was like I didn't want to share, um, and so like I've kept it to myself, but I've kept it going since March. Now it's what, January of the next year, so it's almost going on a year.
Coming up in a year, yeah.
And this is one of the things that I do that's like a little bit out there. I track like everything that I do. I track like the minutes that like my screen time on. So I track like good habits, bad habits. So I track like the time that I meditate, the time that I read, the time that I there's a third category, sleep, like sleep hours.
Okay.
I track how much time I spend on like social media, like different, and I break it down. Instagram, it's hard because Instagram is the one that I'm like working on. But I still make sure that I'm tracking that and know that however much I'm spending on it. I track, uh, you know, budgeting, like financial stuff. I track like anything that can be tracked. I track in like Excel, and then on the other side of it, at the end of the month I'll take the stats and also fitness and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then I do like a write up on myself, like a report on myself about
Wow.
how the month went, and it's like and then like my thoughts on just things that happened. I even put something at the bottom of like I'll take like pictures of things that like I'm grateful for, like things that happened that month that I'm like grateful for, and it's evolved over the last like since March, but now it's a pretty regular thing. I think one day I'd like to publish it or like put it out there because I think it would be interesting to kind of, it's basically my life journey from March of last year to January of this year.
Wow.
One day, I think people will see it, but I think right now I'm still holding it a little bit close. But so the reason I brought it up is because you're saying that this guy with the AI to journal and something to look for his grandchildren to look back on.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if somebody wanted to look, or if I want to look back on it, if I was ever to like write a book of my life, it's like I could literally look back and I would know like what was going on in each chapter each month.
You literally have chapter by chapter.
Yeah.
Stat by stat, PR by PR.
Yeah. it's like this
Wow.
habit I created, and I'm like, I I think it helps me to know that like I'm going in the right direction in a way. Like, or at least I can see like, okay, where was I last month? Like, why didn't I do like X, Y? Like, why was I like not getting certain goals? Like, I look back, I'm like, okay, I was not sleeping well like last month. Like, I was like many days below like 6 hours of sleep. I'm like, okay, like that probably affected this or that. Um, stuff like that. Like I can like look back and be like, okay, this month went really well. Why did it go really well? This month really really bad. Why did it go really bad? I don't know if that's like crazy to do.
No,
um,
that's amazing. I mean, that's like the blueprint alone to lay that out.
yeah,
Like that's powerful. I think you could sell that, bro. Like that's you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Just like, all right, here's your plug and play. Plug in your sleep, plug in this, plug in your reading, plug in your meditation. The like the This is like the background, the blueprint of that is to develop that. What inspired you to start tracking and do things of that nature?
so maybe this is not. I think it's like times where I feel like I'm more like out of control in a way. So I don't know if it's like the so in a way it's like a way of trying to control, which I don't necessarily think is the best reason to. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was like, okay, things are chaotic, but it could be like things were pretty chaotic. So I'm like, okay, how can I create order out of this? I think I've just in my life like gone through chaotic periods, and I like order. And so I was like, okay, how could I order this? How could I like get through what I'm going through? And so I started to track everything. And so like now I can hold myself accountable because I'm looking back and it's like, okay, if I didn't do what I did last month, here's why I didn't do it. Like I'm looking right at it, you know.
Mm.
I can't lie to myself because I tracked it. And it doesn't
It's
mean I'm
me
gonna.
reporting to me.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like I'm necessarily gonna fix it, but like I can move closer to fixing it. And so each month I tweak things. Like I had certain goals, like okay, those goals weren't realistic, so I tweak it a bit. And now like for example, I was like I'm gonna read it was like 45 minutes or an hour a day, and I was like, okay, this is actually like not this is a like because it was so long, I just wouldn't start reading because I'm like I'm not gonna hit the 45 minutes. So I
Mm.
was like, okay, let me just change it to 15 minutes. And
Okay.
then now it's like I'm averaging half an hour of reading a day because I know all I have to do is sit down for 15 minutes, and then I just end up reading more because once you're in it, you're in it.
You're in it.
Yeah. So it's like sometimes you find these little tweaks that you're like just by tweaking the goal, you make it easy for yourself.
Is that all digital as well? Well, you said Google Sheets, right? Or
Yeah, Google.
Excel?
It's Google Sheets. Yeah.
Google Sheets. Okay.
That's like the from when I used to do finance stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I do everything
I
in
could
like
say
Google
it's
Sheets.
very like accounting esque.
Yeah,
I could feel that with the count everything, the sleep, the financials, down
yeah,
to everything.
yeah,
Wow, to the fitness.
and I think like people maybe would think, okay, at least I think Jerome Leron comes across like pretty creative, like the way that I'm like putting out videos. I try to not do the same thing each time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny that like on the back end of things, I'm like extremely like organized.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like people kind of think of creative as like chaotic,
Yeah.
but it's my like or my order that allows me to be creative. Like by knowing where everything is, I feel free to just let my mind do whatever it's gonna do. Yeah,
Otherwise, I mean, I know myself, I'd be worried about this, and this. If you have all of the boxes checked and you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, there's almost an alleviation of anxiety.
yeah, and it reminds me of a quote. Uh, it's a marathoner. Eliud Kipchoge.
No.
He's he's like the goat of marathon running.
Okay.
He set the record like multiple times. He technically broke two, and like a Nike in the marathon, as part of this project with Nike. And he was breaking records even into his late 30s, and like I think he's about 40 now, still competing.
Mm-hmm.
So the quote by him is that only the disciplined ones in life are free. And
Mm-hmm.
so by having that discipline, it allows you to make choices rather than having things happen to you.
Wow.
And that's one of the things I live by. That's like one of my, quotes that I hold, like I go back to. I like to have some quotes that in rotation at times. And that one's consistent that I go back to.
What's another one?
It's a good question. I literally have these like listed out. I don't know if I'm pull out my phone.
Pull it out. Yeah, let's see what you got.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as sexy, but it's like a big procrastinator. And
you're a big procrastinator.
I'm a big, yeah. Okay. I think everybody procrastinates. Like,
yeah.
And so there's the like procrastination. Like a lot of it comes from this this is not a quote, but this is the thing I have written down. It's like this fog of uncertainty. Like you don't know you don't know where you're going, and so you don't take any steps because you don't know where you're going. Like it's this uncertainty, and so the solution to that is literally just figure out what the absolute next step is. Like what is literally like pick up a pencil. That's like the first step in getting through your procrastination. Okay, now you have the pencil. Write out all the things that you're thinking about. I don't know what the problem is, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like literally what is the next step? And even if you don't know what the right next step is, start one next step. Like just try something and then, okay, that didn't work. Let me try something else. Yeah, like procrastination. Yeah, okay, procrastination is when you stop doing things. So it's like, just stop worrying about all of that, and just think of one thing, one step.
Wow, we're back to trusting the process.
Trust the process.
Full circle there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just get back into the process of pick up the pencil, write this, boom, 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 boom. Wow. Any advice for your younger self? You've had a lot of very inspirational shares today. What does your younger self need to hear?
Well, I got to pinpoint like an age.
Give me an age. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, that time with the pandemic, I feel like was one of those pivotal times. So I feel like if I was gonna give advice to my younger self, I would go before that. Like, so. Let's go like high school Jerome. High school Jerome, I feel like, I mean, I wouldn't change anything, but
of course.
But that's so I'm thinking of a quote. I want to get. I haven't had my first tattoo yet. I'm planning to get my first tattoo in the near future. Like I've been set on this idea for a long time, and the words, "I know my destination," and it's lyrics from a song. It's a Kanye West song, "Streetlights," but essentially I know my destination. I think of it in two ways. That I know my destination and that I know where I want to head to, and that I'm trusting the process, and I know that, I guess it's more that I know where I don't want to go. I know Jerome, I want to own something. I want it to be, me. I want it to feel natural. And so it's like I know my destination and where I'm heading with what I'm doing with my life, but also in a different way, I know my destination in that, and this is gonna sound like morbid, but it's like we're all gonna die one day, and that reminder just kicks you in the ass. Like if you ever need like a reminder like that's gonna get you like to start moving, just remember like we're all gonna die one day. Like don't be afraid to do what you're afraid. Like don't be afraid. Don't procrastinate. Like there's only so much time. So yeah, I guess that I would go back to my younger self and be like, look, you're gonna die one day. You're gonna die one day. Like, don't worry about these stupid like things in high school, like girls or I don't know, whatever high school Jerome was thinking about back then. Yeah, like just know that where do you want to go eventually? Like, know your destination. Know in those both ways. Where do you ultimately want to go, and know that where you ultimately will go.
That's beautiful. That's powerful, man. That's really powerful. I think I want to leave it there. Know your destination. I know my destination.
I know my destination.
I know my destination. Ooh, man.
Yeah.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, now you gotta listen to the song.
I definitely do. I definitely do. And how can my millions of supporters and listeners support you?
Yeah.
What's something that everybody, you know, if they're a runner, what is it that, you know, how can they get coached? What is it that we can do to support you?
Yeah, I mean, the simplest way I could, you know, follow Jerome on the Run. That's my Insta. Follow along on the journey, and you know, if you feel inspired by anything, comment, share. I feel like I try. It's always evolving, and I feel like one thing I've loved about doing is I feel like I've touched people in a lot of different ways. Like some people I inspire, some people I teach, some people are just entertained by what it is. And so I feel like, you know, and I really appreciate when people reach out and share that. I think you shared something when somebody was like, that inspired me to run, like one of your friends. So I was like, that's awesome. Like that's what this is about, like inspiring people. So
wow.
Yeah, just follow along, be inspired.
Amazing. Wow, dude, thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time. It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah.
Such an honor having you on.
Yeah, it's great being here.
Sponsored by Custom Fitness Institute. This wouldn't be possible without having a studio here at the Custom Fitness Institute.
Great space.
Great space. Gotta get you in the gym here, bro.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, man. Really appreciate it.